Welcome, dear listener, to another quiet journey. Tonight, you and I sit together at the edge of time itself. The candle glows softly, parchment rustles faintly, and for a little while, the noise of the world can wait outside. Here, history becomes more than lines and borders. It becomes a companion. A path you can follow slowly, gently, as though you were there. Before we begin, if this content genuinely helps you, if these calm stories bring you rest in the long hours of the night, I would like to ask you now, while your eyes are still open, to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep these journeys alive, like ink carried across parchment by a steady hand. And I would love to know, where are you listening from tonight? What surrounds you? A quiet bedroom, a distant city, perhaps even under the open sky. Share it if you wish, so others may know they are not alone in the night. The night is here, and you are safe. Wherever you are, in a room of your own, in a camp beneath the stars, or in a city that has not yet grown quiet, this moment belongs to you. You have carried the burdens of your day, and now you may set them down. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts loosen. Feel the surface beneath you hold you steady. Listen for the quiet, for the stillness waiting around you. If your phone dies, be glad you are not a traveler with only the stars and a worn scrap of parchment. In ages past, men and women set out into the unknown with nothing but ink lines scratched upon clay, or charts drawn by candlelight. There was no recalculating route, no glowing screen to guide them. Only memory, compass, and courage. If you are restless now, if your mind still traces today's maps of tasks and troubles, you would not last long on those seas. So let it go. Breathe deeply, and allow yourself to leave this modern world behind, just for a while. Tonight, the map itself will be your companion. You will hear the parchment rustle. You will feel its surface beneath your fingertips. You will trace its lines as they unfold into coastlines, mountains, rivers. And as you follow them, you will be reminded that maps do not only describe the world. They shape it. They whisper of journeys, of empires, of dreams both lost and found. And now, as your eyes grow heavy, as your breath steadies, as your mind softens into stillness, we begin. Close your eyes, and imagine that when you open them again, you are no longer in the room where you rest tonight. Before you now lies a table. Wooden, heavy, its surface smooth from years of use. Upon it rests a sheet of parchment. Pale, stretched, the fibers whispering faintly whenever the air stirs. A single candle flickers nearby. Its light soft, its flame bending gently with the rhythm of the room. Shadows stretch across the table, long and quiet. And every movement of the flame makes the ink upon the parchment shimmer. The ink is still fresh. Black lines curling across the page, forming shapes both familiar and strange. A river, winding like a serpent. A coastline, jagged and uncertain. mountains rising as clusters of tiny triangles. Your hand drifts slowly toward it, fingertips brushing the surface, and the faint roughness of parchment meets your skin. You lean closer, tracing the line of a coast, feeling the curve of its bays, the sharpness of its cliffs. Each mark is more than ink. It is memory, experience, imagination. A place once walked, or sailed, or dreamed of, now preserved here, in lines that never move. You realize, this is not just a drawing. It is a door. Every mark invites you to step through it. Every line leads somewhere beyond this table. The candle flickers again, and in its glow the map seems alive. Rivers glisten as though water truly flows. Mountains glow as though the sun rests upon their peaks. You follow one river with your eyes. It twists, bends, vanishes into a lake. And for a moment you hear the faint lap of water against a shore. You hear reeds brushing against one another in the wind. You hear birds calling across the surface. You move to the coastline. Its line jagged, uncertain. And you feel the salt air, the crash of waves upon rock, the creak of ships riding the water, the distant call of sailors raising their voices together. The map deepens as you look. No longer a flat sheet, but a world unfolding. You turn your head slightly, and the candlelight catches the ink differently. Mountains rise higher, rivers widen, deserts stretch further. The parchment becomes landscape, the lines become roads. You step closer, and the air changes. The faint scent of parchment blends with the smell of earth, of salt, of pine from forests drawn upon the page. You realize now, you are not looking at a map. You are entering it. Your body softens as the table fades behind you. Your breath steadies as the candle's glow widens into the glow of dawn. You stand within the first of many worlds drawn by human hands. The parchment stretches outward, no longer bound by edges. It becomes horizon. Hills, rivers, plains unfolding around you. And you feel a quiet truth settling within. That every map is both guide and dream. Both memory and possibility. It shows what is known, and hints at what is still beyond. You take another step, and the lines beneath your feet become paths. Each curve, each mark leading you forward into the long story of how we shape the world on paper. And as the wind moves softly around you, as your breath finds its rhythm, you are ready to follow. Ready to walk the first marks, the first attempts, the first dreams pressed into clay by ancient hands. The candle is gone now. The parchment is gone. But the journey has begun. And so you walk into the earliest maps of Mesopotamia. The parchment of the candlelit table fades. And when your eyes open again, the world is older. Much older. You find yourself upon the banks of two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. their waters glimmering in the light of dawn. The air is warm, carrying the scent of wet earth. Reeds sway at the water's edge, and beyond them rise low mud brick walls, clustered villages, and the smoke of small hearths curling into the sky. You walk among people who are busy even at sunrise. Men and women guiding oxen across the fields, children gathering reeds, potters shaping clay upon wheels that turn slowly. The heart of this place is not only the river, not only the harvest, but something new. Something drawn, something pressed into clay. You follow the sound of styluses tapping. Faint clicks, deliberate and steady. And you find a scribe, seated upon a low stool in a small shaded room. Before him lies a soft square of wet clay. He holds a reed stylus in his hand. Each press leaves a mark, each wedge and line a fragment of meaning. You lean closer, and you see that he is not writing words alone. He is shaping a map. On the tablet before him, rivers curve in long strokes. Fields are laid out in rectangles. Boundary lines etched with care. He marks where canals branch from the river, where dikes hold back the flood. He notes the limits of fields, the corners of gardens. The clay smells damp, cool beneath his hands. And with every mark, the world itself becomes more ordered. You realize this is among the first of all maps. Not imagined coasts, not oceans unseen, but land beneath their feet, land they must manage, land they must measure. The tablet is small, no wider than your hand. And yet it holds an entire community. You follow the scribe outside, and he lifts the clay toward the overseer of fields. Together they walk along the canals, comparing marks to earth, ensuring each farmer's plot is known, each share of water remembered. Without this, disputes would rise. Memory would falter. But with marks pressed into clay, the land has voice, the land has witness. You pause at the edge of the canal. Water trickles softly, frogs stir in the reeds. And you reflect that the first maps were not made for travel, nor for conquest, but for life, for bread, for water, for survival. You walk further into the city. Uruk, perhaps, or Babylon in its earliest days. Walls rise in tiers, temples glimmer with offerings, ziggurats stretch toward the sky. And within these walls, more clay tablets rest. Some showing not only fields, but rivers stretching wider. Cities placed upon their banks, roads leading outward. You place your hand upon one such tablet. Its surface rough with age, its lines faint yet steady. And in it you see how the world expanded. From a field, to a village, to an entire land. Scholars gather around these tablets, reading not only cuneiform words, but the shapes of land itself. They trace boundaries, they recall journeys, they preserve memory. You close your eyes, and you hear the murmur of their voices, the scratch of stylus upon clay, the soft hiss of river water beyond the walls. You realize that in this moment, a new kind of power has been born. The power to see the world not only with eyes, but with marks. The clay tablets of Mesopotamia whisper this truth to you: that once something is drawn, it becomes more than memory. It becomes knowledge that can be carried, shared, argued, defended. A map does not simply show. It declares. You breathe slowly, letting the weight of that truth settle. The rivers continue to flow. The reeds continue to sway. The scribes continue to press their styluses into clay. And the first maps remain. Fragile, small, yet powerful. As the sun climbs higher, the clay hardens in the warmth. The marks preserved. A moment of land turned into time. You step back. The city softens, the rivers fade. And you are carried onward, deeper into history's unfolding maps. Toward the wide imagination of the Greeks. The clay tablets of Mesopotamia soften into mist. The rivers fade, the reeds vanish. And when you open your eyes again, you are beneath a different sky. The air is clearer here, bright and sharp, filled with salt from the sea. The sound of gulls calls above you, and the horizon stretches wide and open. You stand among the Greeks. Wanderers, sailors, thinkers. People who gaze at the world not only with their feet upon the earth, but with questions in their minds. Before you, a man sits upon a rock, a scroll of papyrus unrolled across his lap. His reed pen hovers, and you see shapes forming. Not fields and canals this time, but seas and continents. Coastlines stretching outward, ideas of where the world begins and ends. This is not a farmer's tablet, nor a tax collector's record. This is imagination made visible. You lean closer, and you hear him murmur names. Europe, Asia, Libya, divisions not yet as we know them, but beginnings of continents, drawn in lines and words. Others gather around him. They argue gently, voices rising with the sea breeze. One speaks of travelers returning from distant coasts. Another recalls tales carried by merchants. A third points to the stars, insisting that they, too, shape the earth below. And so the map grows. Not from what is measured, but from what is told, what is reasoned, what is dreamed. You follow them into a shaded portico, where philosophers speak at length. Some say the world is flat, a disk floating upon water. Others insist it is round, a sphere, vast and balanced. Herodotus sits among them, his voice weaving stories of faraway lands. Describing rivers too wide to cross, deserts stretching endless, peoples dressed in strange garments. His maps are not only ink. They are stories stitched together, making the world larger in the telling. Later, another man unrolls a different scroll. Claudius Ptolemy, careful, precise. He lays out a grid of latitude and longitude, lines stretching across the parchment like a net cast upon the globe. Here is order. Here is measure. a system to place every place. You trace one of those lines with your finger, and you feel the ambition to hold the entire earth within marks upon a page. And yet, you know their maps are not complete. Their coastlines cut off, their lands imagined. But it does not matter, for in these shapes lies a new power. The Greeks do not map only to survive, but to understand. They map to ask questions, to test ideas, to argue about the very nature of the world itself. You walk to the sea with them. The water gleams in the afternoon sun. Ships rest upon the shore, their sails furled, their hulls heavy with amphory. A sailor lifts his hand toward the horizon, and upon a scroll he sketches a line. Not of land seen, but of land believed. And you realize their maps are as much philosophy as they are geography. Each line, each shape, is a thought, a possibility. You close your eyes, and you hear their voices fade. Debates of flat and round, of east and west, of known and unknown. The sea breeze cools your face. The gulls wheel above. And you understand that maps are not only for fields, not only for roads, but for imagination itself. The Greeks whisper this lesson to you, that to draw the world is also to dream it. You breathe slowly, letting that truth rest within you. The waves lap softly. The scrolls roll closed. The philosophers drift into silence. And as the stars begin to rise above the horizon, guiding sailors onward, you too are carried forward. From the Greek imagination into the order of Rome. The scrolls of the Greeks fade from your hands. Their voices soften into the sea breeze. And when you open your eyes again, the world has changed. The air is heavier, warmer. The smell of stone dust and iron lingers. And before you rise arches, wide streets, walls of marble and brick. You are in Rome. The hum of the city surrounds you. Merchants calling, wheels rattling across stone, the steady step of soldiers moving in rhythm. But what draws you most is not the forum, not the temples, not the marble statues. It is the maps. You follow a soldier into a shaded hall. The walls cool, the light dim. Here hangs a scroll unrolled across a long wooden table. And upon it, lines stretch outward like veins. It is not a world map, not seas and continents imagined. It is a road map. The arteries of empire. The tabula peutingeriana, some call it. A scroll nearly endless, showing Rome at the center, and from it, roads extending to every province. You lean closer. Towns marked, rivers crossed, stations placed where travelers may rest. Each road a line of power, carrying armies, messages, merchants. You trace one line with your finger. From Rome itself, across the Alps, into Gaul, onward to the edges of the known world. Another line stretches east, through Greece, across Anatolia, toward the deserts and rivers of Mesopotamia. The map does not show mountains as mountains, seas as seas. It is not a landscape, but a network. And you realize, Rome thinks not in shapes of earth, but in paths of movement. For the empire is not held together by imagination alone. It is bound by roads. You walk outside, and you see them. Wide, straight, paved with heavy stones set in sand. Grooves worn by wheels, edges lined with ditches for drainage. Mile markers standing like sentinels along the way. Soldiers march upon them. Merchants push carts heavy with goods. Messengers on horseback ride swiftly, carrying orders sealed with wax. The roads stretch in both directions, disappearing into horizon. You walk along one. The stones firm beneath your feet. And you sense how deeply these roads matter. For with them, Rome is not a single city, not even a single land. It is a web. Threads pulled tight across continents. Every legion that moves, every caravan that passes, every scroll of law that travels, all depend on these lines of stone. And so the maps of Rome are not of oceans or imagination. They are of distance, of measure, of how long it takes to walk, to march, to deliver word from one end of empire to the other. You pass a way station. A mansio. Travelers rest here, their sandals removed, their animals watered. Food shared, news exchanged. The walls marked with simple maps scratched by hands, showing roads, rivers, next stations. You realize, the roads are not only for kings and armies. They are for everyone. Linking village to town, town to city, city to Rome. The map in your mind grows. Not curved, not spherical, but stretched like a great scroll. Each road a line of life, each station a heartbeat. The sun sets slowly as you walk. Torches lit along the road, glowing softly against stone. The sound of footsteps never ceases. Day and night, someone is always walking these paths. You pause and reflect. That Rome's genius lay not only in conquest, but in connection. The Greeks dreamed the world, the Romans bound it. Their maps whisper this truth to you. That power is not only knowing where the world is. It is ensuring the world can move. You breathe slowly, feeling the firmness of the stones beneath you. The roads stretch onward, endless, eternal. And as the stars rise above, you walk further, carried along the map of Rome, into the next vision of how people saw their world, toward the circles of faith in the medieval age. The Roman roads soften behind you. The stones fade into sand. The sound of marching boots grows still. And when your eyes open again, centuries have passed. The world feels quieter now. Darker, yet filled with devotion. Candles flicker within stone chapels. Bells toll in the distance. And the air carries the scent of wax, of incense, of damp stone. You find yourself in a scriptorium. A room lined with wooden desks, parchment stacked carefully, quills resting in ink pots. Monks sit hunched in silence, their robes whispering as they shift, their breath steady. At one desk, a monk draws upon a sheet of vellum. His hand careful, deliberate. The quill scratches slowly, and you see the shape emerge. A circle. At its center, Jerusalem. Holy, radiant, drawn as the navel of the earth. From it, 3 great lands stretch outward. Asia, Africa, Europe. Divided by the waters of the seas, simple strokes forming a T across the circle. It is a TO map. A vision of the world as faith sees it. You lean closer. The ink is dark, the parchment pale. Rivers drawn as straight lines, mountains as simple humps, cities as dots with names in careful Latin script. It does not look like the coasts you know. Not jagged, not precise. But it is not meant to. For this map does not show geography. It shows belief. You trace the circle with your fingertip. It is whole, complete, contained. At the top of the page, east is placed, not north. For the east is where Eden lies, where paradise once bloomed. The rising sun, the garden lost, the promise of return. You realize that in these maps, the world is not measured by distance, but by meaning. Jerusalem glows at the center. The holy city, the place of crucifixion and resurrection. To the mapmakers, it is not one city among many. It is the heart of all existence. Around it, stories unfold. Noah's Ark resting on Ararat. The Tower of Babel rising in Babylon. The Red Sea parting for Israel's crossing. These are not coastlines and rivers alone. They are scripture made into shape. You hear the soft rustle of pages as the monk turns another parchment. More circles, more visions. Sometimes filled with dragons at the edges, warning of dangers beyond. Sometimes blank at the margins, as though the rest of the world need not be drawn. The candlelight flickers, and the ink shimmers faintly. You sit beside the monk as he works. His hand steady, his lips moving silently in prayer with each line. For him, this is not art, nor science. It is devotion. You realize. In this time, maps are not tools for travel, not guides for merchants or soldiers. They are meditations. Reminders of God's order upon earth. The circle itself is perfection. No beginning, no end. All contained within. You close your eyes. And for a moment you hear the chant of monks in the chapel beyond. Low voices echoing against stone. Words rising slowly, like incense itself. And you feel how the map is not separate from the chant. It is the same. Both shaping the world as holy, centered, ordered by faith. When you open your eyes, the monk has finished. He lifts the parchment gently, blowing softly upon the ink to dry it. He sets it aside, another vision of the world complete. You step outside into the courtyard of the monastery. The night sky above is filled with stars. Cool air brushes your face. You realize, outside these walls, merchants still travel, sailors still cross seas, villagers still plough fields. But within, the world is redrawn as sacred. To those who gaze upon these maps, to know the world is not to know every coast or distance. It is to know where one stands in the story of salvation. You walk slowly along the cloister. Arches framing the stars. Footsteps echoing softly. And you reflect that the Roman roads taught power through movement. But the medieval maps teach power through meaning. That where you place the center of the world shapes how you see it. Jerusalem at the heart. Eden at the edge. Dragons beyond. The map does not describe the land. It describes the soul. You breathe slowly, letting the truth settle. Maps are not only science. They are also mirrors of what people most believe. The candlelight fades. The chanting softens. The parchment curls upon the desk. And you drift onward. Out of circles of faith. Into another vision. Toward the stars and instruments of the Islamic Golden Age. The candlelight of the monastery fades. The circle of faith dissolves. The chants grow still. And when your eyes open again, the air is warmer. Filled with spice and smoke. Alive with voices speaking many tongues. You are in a city of the Islamic Golden Age. Perhaps Baghdad, perhaps Cordoba, perhaps Damascus. The streets are lit by oil lamps. Merchants call out from stalls heavy with silk, with books, with spices from across the world. The air hums with trade and thought alike. But beyond the marketplace lies a quieter place. The house of wisdom. You step inside. And the sound changes. Here, men and women bend over parchment, scrolls, instruments. Translators whisper in Arabic, in Greek, in Persian. Copying texts, comparing, questioning. At one table, astronomers trace circles upon parchment. Compasses glint in the lamplight. Lines of latitude and longitude drawn carefully, refined beyond what Ptolemy once sketched. At another table, sailors bend over sea charts. Coastlines drawn more precisely. Ports marked with care. Routes inked across seas. And upon the wall hangs a great map. The world shaped not as a circle of faith, but as a globe flattened carefully, measured by stars and mathematics. You walk closer. The Mediterranean is there, drawn in detail. Africa stretching below. Asia rising vast to the east. The shapes more familiar now, coastlines closer to what you know. The map glows in the lamplight, ink shimmering. Rivers twisting true, mountains placed with care. You realize these maps are not made to place heaven at the center, nor to tell stories alone. They are made to guide, to measure, to know. A scholar lifts his astrolabe, a brass disc engraved with circles of stars. He tilts it toward the sky, aligning it with the constellations. He explains softly to his students how the stars can tell time, how they can fix direction, how they can anchor a ship in the open sea when land has vanished beyond the horizon. You close your eyes, and you hear the night sky itself whispering. Stars like lanterns scattered across the black. Steady, eternal, waiting. The scholar's hand traces the constellations. Orion, Scorpio, the southern fish. Each one a guide, each one a mark upon the greater map above. And below, the parchment map grows more certain, more precise. In these halls, Uladrisi draws his great world map. A silver disc nearly 2 meters wide, engraved with lands and seas known to his time. You watch him work, placing rivers, mountains, cities, coasts. Descriptions flowing in Arabic script around each shape. He places south at the top, not north. For to him the world need not be oriented as yours is. It can be turned, inverted, seen anew. And you realize orientation itself is a choice, a reflection of culture, of vision. The map becomes not only science, but philosophy again. Merchants study these charts before their journeys. Sailors roll them carefully into cases to take aboard ships. Generals consult them when planning expeditions. And always, above them, the stars keep watch. You walk out into the courtyard. Night has fallen. The air is cool, filled with the fragrance of jasmine and smoke. Scholars gather beneath the sky, lifting their astrolabes, marking notes on wax tablets. Their voices quiet, reverent. For here, science is devotion. To measure creation is to honor the Creator. To map the earth is to marvel at its order. You sit with them, gazing upward. The stars glitter endlessly, each one steady, patient. And you feel how different this vision is. Not a circle of faith alone, not a network of roads, not a dream of philosophers, but a harmony of earth and sky, measured, drawn, refined. You breathe slowly, and you feel the calm precision, the gentle order. These maps whisper another truth to you. That to know the world more clearly is not to diminish its wonder, but to deepen it. The parchment glows in lamplight. The stars glow above. And between them, knowledge flows. You close your eyes once more, and you feel yourself drifting onward. From the lamplit courtyards of Baghdad, from the silver discs of Uladrisi, from the astrolabes lifted toward heaven. Carried onward into another chapter of maps. Toward sails unfurling, oceans crossed, the age of exploration beginning. The courtyards of Baghdad fade. The stars soften into mist. The brass astrolabes are set gently aside. And when your eyes open again, you are no longer beneath desert skies. You hear the rush of waves, the creak of wood, the faint cry of gulls carried on salt wind. You stand at the edge of the Atlantic, the horizon wide, endless. And before you, ships rest in harbor. Their sails are furled, their ropes thick and coiled, their hulls heavy with barrels of fresh water and salt-dried food. Men move upon the decks, voices low, steady with both courage and fear. For they will leave the safety of known coasts, guided only by charts that grow blank beyond the edge. You step closer, and on a wooden table in the captain's cabin lies a map. It is a Portoland chart, drawn with astonishing detail along the familiar coasts. Every harbor marked, every shoal noted, compass roses painted in bright red and green. Lines radiate across the parchment, crisscrossing, guiding the ships from port to port. But beyond those coasts, the page grows pale. Blank seas stretching outward, filled only with dragons, or words like "Here there be monsters." You touch the edge of that blankness, and you feel both fear and invitation. For the age of exploration is a time when maps are both anchor and abyss. The Portuguese are first. Their caravels small, nimble, slipping along the coast of Africa, one inlet, one cape at a time. You walk with them onto the deck. The sails catch wind, the ropes groan, and the ship leans into the current. The captain unfurls his chart, marked by hand, each voyage adding a little more coast, a little more truth. At night, he lifts an astrolabe to the stars. The same instrument once raised in Cordoba and Baghdad. He sights the North Star, measuring its height above the horizon. And from it, fixes his latitude. You hear the men murmuring prayers. For every line upon the chart is fragile, every wave unpredictable. Still, they sail on. The coast of Africa lengthens on their maps. Rivers marked, capes named, islands plotted. Soon, the Spanish join them. Their ships larger, their ambitions wider. You are aboard one now. The deck sways beneath your feet, the sails groan with the wind. A man named Columbus leans over a chart, his eyes tracing not Africa, but westward across the great blank. He believes land lies there. Not monsters, not endless sea, but another coast unseen. The crew murmurs nervously, but the map steadies him. Even if it is incomplete, it suggests possibility. Weeks pass. Stars above, waves below. The chart rolled and unrolled, marked with notes. And then land. Palm trees swaying, birds crying, water glimmering. The map is changed forever. No longer just Europe, Africa, Asia, but a new world added, coastlines unfolding, oceans crossed. You hold one of these new maps in your hands. Bright colors painted, seas filled with ships, coasts lined with names newly written. Dragons vanish from the margins. Instead, bays and rivers take their place. And you realize, maps are no longer only records of what is known. They are promises of what can be claimed. Merchants trace them with greedy fingers. Kings spread them wide upon tables, their rings tapping the parchment. Armies sail because of them. The age of exploration transforms maps into instruments of empire. And yet, for the sailor at sea, they remain fragile hopes. You sit again in the captain's cabin. The candle flickers, the chart spreads wide. The lines are steady, but outside, the sea is endless. The ship rocks. The timbers creak. The ink quivers on the page. You breathe slowly. And you feel both the fear and the wonder. That to set sail with only these lines is to surrender to the unknown. Maps whisper another lesson here. That every line is both truth and dream. Both guide and gamble. You close your eyes and hear the waves steady. The gulls circling. The sails filling with wind. And when you open them again, you are carried forward. Beyond explorers. Toward another vision. The projection that will change how the world itself is drawn. The Mercator world, where power itself is embedded in the lines. The sails of the explorers fade. The creak of wood and rush of waves soften. The harbor falls behind you. And when your eyes open again, you find yourself in a small, quiet study. The air is still, warmed by a hearth that glows low with embers. Shelves rise high with books and scrolls. Globes rest upon stands, their surfaces painted with bright seas and shaded continents. At the center of the room sits a man at his desk. A quill in his hand, parchment before him. His brow furrowed, his movements careful, steady. His name is Gerardus Mercator. You lean closer. And upon his parchment lines begin to stretch. Not jagged, not curved at random, but long, straight, ordered. He is drawing a world that sailors can use, not only to dream, but to navigate. The old maps, though beautiful, could not always guide a ship. Their coastlines bent strangely, their distances uncertain. A sailor might follow them into danger, into storms, into seas that shifted on parchment as easily as on water. But here, Mercator tries something new. He imagines the earth as a sphere, then unfolds it upon a flat sheet. To do this, he stretches the world. The equator lies steady. But the further north, the further south you look, the more the land expands. Greenland grows vast, larger than Africa. Though in truth, Africa is many times greater. Europe, too, grows wide. Its shape steady, clear. While lands closer to the equator shrink. Compressed, diminished. You watch the lines unfold, the grid of latitude and longitude spreading evenly. And you realize Mercator has done something both subtle and profound. He has made a map that sailors can trust. A straight line upon his chart can be followed as a straight course upon the sea. But in doing so, he has altered how the world appears. What is large becomes small. What is small becomes large. The map is both truth and distortion, both guide and persuasion. You sit beside him in the lamplight, the scratch of his quill soft in the quiet. He does not think of empire, not of propaganda. He thinks of sailors, of storms, of safety at sea. He thinks of geometry, of projection, of order. And yet, once his map leaves this room, once it spreads into the world, it will shape far more than voyages. Kings will look at it. Rulers will trace its lines with their fingers. And they will see Europe drawn large, Africa drawn smaller. They will see the world arranged in ways that echo power. You hold the map in your hands. The parchment cool, the ink dark. The seas stretch wide, straight lines crossing them, radiating outward from compass roses. The continents sit firm, distorted but ordered. And you feel how persuasive it is. It looks authoritative, steady, certain. A sailor trusts it. A scholar trusts it. A king trusts it. And trust itself is power. You close your eyes, and you imagine the centuries that follow. Ships sail upon courses drawn from this projection. Fleets move more confidently. Colonists cross oceans. Empires spread their banners across seas. The Mercator projection whispers to them that the world is navigable, that it is theirs to traverse, theirs to claim. And yet, you also imagine the quiet distortions settling into minds. Children in schools centuries later look at maps pinned upon walls. They see Europe larger than it is. Africa smaller. Greenland enormous, looming upon the page. Without knowing, they absorb the shape of power drawn not only in words, but in lines. You breathe slowly, feeling the weight of this truth. That maps are never neutral. Each projection chooses what to preserve and what to alter. Each one whispers something. Some whisper faith. Some whisper science. Some whisper empire. Mercator's map whispers order. But it also whispers a vision of the world that places some lands at the center, others at the margins. You walk again into the study. Mercator sets his quill aside, his shoulders heavy with the long night's work. He gazes at the map, his face calm, his eyes weary. For him, it is a tool. For the world, it becomes something greater. You step outside into the evening air. The city is quiet, lanterns glowing faintly, cobblestones damp from earlier rain. And you realize the map he drew will live long beyond him. Carried in ships, in books, in classrooms. Its distortions will linger. Its utility will endure. and power will rest in its lines, as surely as in armies, as surely as in crowns. You breathe deeply. The cool night settling around you. And you reflect. That maps do not only show the world. They shape how the world is imagined. Mercator's projection teaches you this softly. That every choice of how to draw is also a choice of how to see. You look once more at the stars above. Steady, eternal, unmoving. While below, the lines of men stretch and distort to capture them. And you feel yourself drifting onward. Beyond Mercator's desk. Into chambers where rulers themselves will spread maps upon tables. Drawing borders not with quills alone, but with power. Into the age where maps no longer only distort coastlines, but divide continents. Toward the borders of empire. The quiet study of Mercator fades. The scratch of quill and glow of lamplight dissolve. And when your eyes open again, the world feels heavier. The air thicker, filled with the scent of ink, of smoke, of paper pressed flat upon wooden tables. You are in a colonial office. Somewhere far from the seas and deserts of maps past. The room is dim, shutters closed against the sun. Long tables stretch before you, crowded with parchment, rulers, compasses, inkwells. Men lean over them, their voices low, steady, deliberate. They are drawing borders. Not coastlines traced by sailors, not rivers marked by farmers, not stars measured by scholars. But straight lines, hard and certain. One man sets his ruler upon the page. His hand does not tremble. He draws a line downward. From one edge of the continent to the other. Another man mirrors him, dividing land into pieces. You lean closer. And you see what they do. They are dividing Africa. Carving it into territories that no one in this room has ever walked. Their maps are filled with rivers and mountains, but the lines they draw do not follow them. They slice across deserts, across villages, across lives. It is the age of empire. The maps are no longer tools to survive, no longer dreams of philosophers, no longer guides for sailors alone. They are instruments of control. You trace one of the new lines with your fingertip. It cuts through forests, through valleys, through places filled with people, families, generations. Yet on this page, they are silent. The line is straight. Cleaner than the land it claims. You hear the scratching of pens. The stamping of seals. The murmur of voices. Each border declared, each name written, each color brushed upon the map. And with each mark, power shifts. You walk around the table. And you see maps of India, divided into provinces, its coasts crowded with ports marked in bold ink. You see maps of the Americas. Grids spreading across plains, rivers renamed, mountains measured not for wonder but for claim. The cartographers work quietly. Their hands steady. Outside, the land is vast, alive, filled with its own rhythms. But here, it becomes paper. Lines. Decisions. You pause. And you reflect. That the power of maps now lies not only in showing what is, but in declaring what will be. A straight line on a map can erase 1,000 years of memory. A border inked in an office can split villages, tribes, families. A name written in bold can silence older names whispered for centuries. You breathe slowly. The air heavy with ink, with certainty. And you realize the maps here are not mirrors. They are commands. The rulers in this room look at paper, not at land. And yet, for those who live upon the land, the paper decides. You close your eyes. And for a moment you hear the quiet voices of those far away. A farmer in Africa, whose field is now said to belong to another nation. A family in India, whose village lies now upon a line they never drew. A people in the Americas, whose rivers are renamed in tongues not their own. The office does not hear them. Only the scratching of pens. Only the stamping of wax seals. You open your eyes again. And the maps glow in lamplight. Colored, ordered, convincing. And you feel the weight of another truth. That maps do not only describe power. They create it. The colonial maps whisper softly to you that a line can be sharper than a sword. That ink can conquer as surely as steel. You step back from the table. The air feels close, the shutters hold out the light. And yet beyond the walls, the sun still shines upon deserts and jungles, rivers and mountains. Lives continue, voices rise, children play. The maps may declare borders, but the earth itself does not change so easily. The river flows as it always has. The mountain rises as it always has. The forest grows as it always has. And you realize that even as paper commands, the land endures. You breathe deeply, and the office begins to soften. The lines blur. The rulers fade. You are carried onward from these sharp borders into another room where maps no longer divide continents only, but decide battles, strategies, futures. Into the war rooms, where pins move across maps and lives move with them. The colonial office fades. The sharp straight lines soften. The rulers and seals grow quiet. And when your eyes open again, you are standing in a darker place. A room without windows, lit only by oil lamps, or later by electric bulbs glowing faintly. Shadows pool in the corners. The air heavy with smoke, with sweat, with silence. This is a war room. The walls are bare. The table is long. And upon it lies a map. Not a small parchment, not a folded chart, but an entire table covered with paper. Coasts and rivers stretching wide, mountains drawn in shadow, borders traced in black ink. And upon this map, men move their hands. Wooden blocks mark armies. Colored pins stand for divisions. Strings stretch across routes of march. You lean closer, and you see how quiet the room is. No shouting, no clamor. Only the soft scrape of wood across paper, the faint click of pins, the murmur of voices low, deliberate. The war itself is far away. Soldiers move, cannons fire, cities burn. But here, in this silent room, it is only marks upon paper. A general lifts his hand. He pushes a block forward. And with that gesture, thousands will march. Another bends low, studies a coastline. He presses a pin into it. And with that choice, ships will sail. You realize, this is a different kind of power. Here, the war is not fought with swords or muskets, but with lines and decisions. The map does not only reflect the war, it directs it. You follow the lines upon the table. Rivers winding, mountains rising. Every contour drawn by careful hands. And yet, the land itself is absent. The mud, the snow, the heat, the hunger. None of it shown here. Only symbols, only lines. You breathe slowly. And you feel the tension of distance. How easy it is, in this room, to move a block across a river. How hard it is, in the world, for men to ford it. How quick it is, in this room, to shift a pin. How long it is, on the ground, for an army to march. The map hides the struggle, but carries the decision. You sit quietly at the edge of the table, watching the men lean closer, whispering. One points to the north. Another shakes his head and points south. Their fingers trace rivers, borders, coasts. The fate of thousands resting on the tilt of a wrist, the scratch of a pen. And yet, the room itself remains calm. The map serene. You close your eyes. And you hear the distant echo. The rumble of cannons, the tramp of boots, the cries of men. But when you open them again, all is still. Only blocks upon paper, only pins upon parchment. The war reduced to symbols. You reflect. That maps are never more powerful, never more frightening, than here. For here, they are not memory, not record, not imagination. They are command. The generals trust them. They see not the ground, but the paper. And the paper becomes reality. You walk slowly around the room. The lamps flicker, casting long shadows. The men bend low, their faces half lit, half hidden. You feel the weight of silence. Heavy, steady. The map whispers softly to you that in moments like this, entire futures can be decided without a sword drawn, without a step taken. That ink can send ships. That lines can move armies. That symbols can shape the lives of millions. You pause at one corner of the map. It is filled with red pins. Pressed close, crowded. Another corner is nearly empty. A frontier open, vulnerable. The generals see it too. They nod, they speak in low tones. A hand brushes across the empty space, and soon pins are moved, lines redrawn. And outside this room, lives shift with them. You close your eyes once more. And you breathe. The war room grows softer, dreamlike. The table blurs. The pins fade. The smoke thins. And you are left with the quiet truth that maps can turn war into a game of symbols. Yet the symbols are heavy. They carry weight unseen. The room fades further. You drift from it like mist leaving stone. And as you walk onward, you feel yourself leaving the dark chambers of war, carried instead toward a brighter age, where maps are not covered with blocks and pins, but painted in bright colors. Maps not of battles, but of nations. The war room fades behind you. The table grows still. The pins are lifted, the blocks are gathered, the smoke dissolves into quiet. And when your eyes open again, you find yourself in a brighter room. Light pours through tall windows. Sunlight catching upon polished globes, upon walls lined with maps. But these maps are not like the old scrolls. Not like the portolans of sailors, nor the projections of scholars, nor the command tables of war. These are political maps, drawn in bright colors. Each nation a shade of its own. Deep red, pale yellow, soft green, dark blue. Borders thick and certain. Each country enclosed neatly, as though the world itself were divided like pieces of a painted puzzle. You step closer, and you see the names printed in bold. France, Britain, Russia, Germany, Italy, Spain. Their letters stretch wide, covering mountains, rivers, deserts, as though the land itself belongs to the words. You touch the map. The surface smooth beneath your hand, and you feel how persuasive it is. Children in schools gaze at maps like this, tracing the outlines of their homeland. They learn to color within the borders, to shade their country in red or blue, to know its shape by heart. And in doing so, they learn not only geography. They learn belonging. You pause, and you realize. This is how nations are taught. Not through stories alone, but through color, through shape, through the certainty of borders. You look again, and you see how large the empires spread. Britain, painted red, stretches not only over the Isles of the North, but across Canada, India, Africa, Australia. Vast oceans between them, yet all one color. France glows in blue, its shade repeated in West Africa, in Indochina, in islands scattered like jewels. The map whispers softly that the world is not only divided, it is claimed. The colors persuade. They make empires seem natural. A child in London sees the red upon the map and thinks the world itself wears their crown. A child in Paris sees the blue and thinks the earth itself is marked with their language. And yet, the map hides the people. It does not show the villages, the farms, the forests. It does not show the faces of those who live there. It shows only color, only border. You breathe slowly, and the room shifts. Now you stand in a classroom. Chalk dust drifts in the air. A teacher points to a map pinned upon the wall. The children watch closely, their eyes tracing the borders of their homeland. They are told where their country begins and where it ends. They are told which color is theirs and which colors are foreign. And in their minds, the map becomes more than paper. It becomes identity. The rivers and mountains of the map are not only places. They are symbols of who they are. The borders are not only lines. They are walls of belonging. You step outside the classroom, into a cafe where men gather around newspapers spread wide. The maps within the papers are smaller, crowded with text, but still colored. Still divided. The men speak of treaties, of borders shifting, of territories gained or lost. Their fingers trace the maps as they argue, as though the paper itself carries the truth of politics. And beyond, in parliaments and congresses, rulers debate with maps before them. They point at lines, they shade new colors. And nations expand or shrink with strokes of pens. You close your eyes, and you imagine the power of those maps to unite people behind a flag, to convince them of the naturalness of borders, to inspire pride, or fear, or longing. You open them again, and the colors glow brighter. A world neatly divided, every inch claimed, every coast painted. And you realize that these maps are not only reflections of nations, they are creators of them. For nations are imagined, and the maps make the imagination visible. A child sees the outline of their country and learns to love it. A soldier sees the edge of their border and learns to defend it. A politician sees the spread of their color and learns to desire more of it. The map whispers softly. That power lies not only in armies or laws, but in how people are taught to see themselves upon paper. You breathe. Slowly. Deeply. The sunlight through the tall windows grows softer. Afternoon fading into dusk. The maps upon the walls still glow with color. Their borders sharp, their names bold. But in the fading light, you sense their fragility. For no border is eternal. No color fixed forever. What is red today may be blue tomorrow. What is whole today may be divided tomorrow. The land itself does not change. The rivers still flow, the mountains still rise, the forests still grow. But upon paper, the world shifts endlessly. And you reflect that maps of nations are powerful not because they are true, but because they are believed. The belief makes them real. The colors make them strong. And as you stand in that fading light, you feel yourself drift onward. Beyond classrooms, beyond parliaments, beyond flags. Toward maps that are not only bright colors of belonging, but sharper, darker maps, drawn to persuade, to frighten, to shape hearts as much as minds. Toward the age of propaganda in print. The colored maps of nations fade. The bright reds, blues, and yellows dissolve like watercolor in rain. And when your eyes open again, the room is different. The light is harsher. The air smells faintly of ink and smoke. Presses rumble faintly in the distance. And before you, sheets of paper are stacked high, still damp with fresh print. These are not maps of gentle instruction. Not maps pinned in classrooms or hung in libraries. These are maps meant to persuade, to frighten, to command hearts as well as minds. You step closer to the press. The ink glistens darkly upon a map just pulled free. It shows the world not in balanced color, not in soft shades, but in contrasts. Sharp, urgent. One land painted deep red, labeled as threat. Another painted pale, labeled as victim. Arrows sweep across seas, lines thrust toward borders. The map is not quiet. It shouts. You hold it in your hands. The paper rough, the ink staining your fingertips. You realize. This is propaganda. A map designed not to guide a traveler, not to teach a child, not to help a sailor steer his course, but to stir emotion. Fear, pride, anger. You close your eyes, and you hear the voices of the age. Pamphlets handed out on street corners, newspapers unfolded in cafes, posters pinned upon walls. Each one bearing a map. Sometimes it shows enemy forces larger than they are, swelling across continents like a tide. Sometimes it shows your own nation glowing bright, its borders clear, its reach noble, its strength steady. Sometimes it paints neighbors dark, menacing, suggesting danger where there may be none. You open your eyes, and you see another map. This one shows Europe. Two nations painted dark and looming, their shadows stretching outward. Tiny countries beside them appear even smaller, fragile, pale. The message is unspoken, yet unmistakable. Protection is needed, action is urgent, fear is justified. You step further into the room. Maps are scattered everywhere. Some folded into pamphlets, some printed large as posters. One shows arrows sweeping across oceans. Another shows concentric circles, suggesting bombs that could reach every corner. Another shows walls dividing, colors clashing, lines cutting the paper like scars. You breathe slowly, and you realize that maps here are not about truth. They are about imagination, but not the imagination of wonder. The imagination of fear. A child seeing this map learns not only where their country lies, but who their enemy is. A citizen reading a paper sees not only borders, but threats pressing close. A soldier glancing at a poster sees not only lines, but reasons to march. The propaganda map whispers differently. It does not whisper faith, nor science, nor curiosity. It whispers urgency, danger, necessity, and yet its power is quiet, disguised. For to the eye, it seems only a map. You pause, reflecting that a simple picture of the world can be made to tell any story. Expand one land, shrink another. Choose dark colors here, light colors there. Add arrows, add shadows. And suddenly the map is no longer geography. It is argument. You step outside into the street. The air cool, the night alive with voices. On walls, you see maps pinned, corners curling in the breeze. Passers-by glance at them, their faces changing as they take them in. Some nod with pride. Others frown with worry. But all believe. For maps carry authority. They look certain, final, unquestionable. And so the persuasion works. You close your eyes, and you drift through decades. World wars, Cold Wars, struggles of ideology. Always the maps appear. Maps of threats, maps of encirclement, maps of liberation. They change colors, change shapes, but their purpose remains. To make people feel something. To make people see the world not as it is, but as someone wishes them to. You open your eyes once more. The press is still rumbling, the paper still damp. Ink still staining your fingertips. And you reflect that maps hold power not only in what they show, but in what they suggest. The propaganda maps whisper this lesson. That images of the world can be sharper than speeches, stronger than words. That to see is to believe. You breathe deeply. The ink heavy in the air. And as the sound of the press grows softer, the posters curl upon the wall. The pamphlets drift in the breeze. You step away, leaving behind the clamor of persuasion. Carried onward into another vision of maps. Not shouting now, not persuading, but measuring, surveying, charting the earth itself in precise lines. Toward the scientific maps of land and surface. The presses fade behind you. The sharp ink smell, the bold colors of propaganda, the arrows and shadows all dissolve. And when your eyes open again, the world is quieter. You hear the crunch of boots upon soil, the creak of leather satchels, the clink of metal instruments, the murmur of men measuring, marking, pausing to record. You are with surveyors. The air is open here. The sky wide, a pale blue stretching endless. The horizon far and steady. They stand upon a hilltop, compasses in hand, chains coiled at their feet, tripods planted in the earth. They measure carefully, step by step, line by line. One man peers through a theodolite, the brass gleaming in sunlight. Another stretches the measuring chain, its metal links clicking softly. Another scribbles figures into a worn notebook, the pages smudged with dirt and sweat. The land is not guessed at, not imagined, not colored to persuade. It is measured. Every hill recorded. Every river traced. Every valley mapped. You walk beside them as they descend the hill. Through tall grass whispering in the wind, across stones warmed by sun. They pause again. Plant the tripod. Sight the instrument. Record the angle. Slowly, carefully, the land becomes numbers. And the numbers become lines. You see the parchment in their hands. Grids unfolding, marks aligned, sketches turning into certainty. This is the mapping of surfaces. The mountains, the rivers, the soils, the stones. Geologists join them. Chisels tapping at rocks, hammers splitting stone, notebooks filled with sketches of layers. They map not only the surface, but beneath it. The folds of hills, the tilt of strata, the seams of minerals hidden below. Cartographers later take these notes and turn them into maps shaded with color. Brown for mountains, green for forests, blue for rivers, yellow for plains. Beneath, other maps appear. Bands of color marking iron, coal, copper. Resources waiting in the ground. You run your fingers along one such map. The paper cool, the lines crisp. You feel how precise it is. Every contour, every elevation, every resource carefully noted. And you realize these maps are power of another kind. Not persuasion, not propaganda, not faith or empire, but knowledge. Knowledge that feeds nations. Knowledge that builds roads, bridges, railways. Knowledge that tells governments where to mine, where to farm, where to settle. You close your eyes, and you hear the steady sound of their work. The scrape of compass against paper. The measured call of numbers across the field. The rustle of notebooks as pages are turned. It is not urgent, not loud. It is steady, patient. For the land does not shout its secrets. It reveals them slowly, to those who measure with care. You open your eyes again, and you are in a tent at night. A lantern glows softly. The surveyors sit in silence, drawing their notes onto clean parchment. Contours rise as thin lines. Rivers flow in blue ink. Mountains hatch in shading. Outside, the wind hums low. The land itself resting as they capture it upon the page. You realize these maps carry a different truth. They are not made to frighten, nor to conquer. They are made to understand. Yet even here, power whispers. For once the land is measured, it can be used. Once its resources are marked, they can be claimed. Coal seams dug, forests cut, rivers dammed. The map itself is neutral, but its knowledge is not. You breathe slowly, letting the weight of that truth rest within. You step outside the tent. The stars scatter above, silent, eternal. Below, the hills roll gentle, rivers glint silver in moonlight. And you reflect. That maps of surfaces remind us the earth itself is not blank. It is full, alive, layered. But to place it upon paper is to change it. To measure is to invite use. To know is to invite claim. The land whispers quietly through its stones and streams. That to draw it is also to shape its future. You close your eyes once more. The lantern glow fading, the rustle of pages stilling. And you drift onward. From the patient surveyors, from the steady geologists, from the quiet cartographers at their lanterns. Into another age, where the earth is no longer only measured, but watched in secrecy. Where maps are drawn not for villages or fields, but for nations staring at one another in suspicion, toward the hidden cartographies of the Cold War. The lanterns of the surveyors fade. The scratch of pencils upon paper, the gentle chains measuring hills, the quiet tents glowing in the night, all dissolve into silence. And when your eyes open again, the world feels different. The air is tense, cooler, filled not with the calm patience of scholars, but with the quiet hum of secrecy. You are in a dim underground room. Walls thick with concrete. The air faint with dust and electricity. On the tables lie maps, but these are not maps of fields or farms, not maps to guide travelers or sailors. They are maps of the Cold War. You step closer. The paper is wide, pinned to boards, covered with colored zones. Some are shaded in red, some in blue, some in pale neutral tones. Lines crisscross oceans, circles stretch outward from distant cities, each one marking how far a missile might reach, how long a bomber might fly. It is quiet here, but the quiet is heavy. Every pin, every circle, every arrow carries a weight beyond its ink. You hear the murmur of voices. Officers leaning over maps, their words low, cautious. This city lies within reach. This base lies exposed. This border vulnerable. Their fingers trace the lines, their pencils press harder. And you realize, these maps are not meant to be shared. They are not for classrooms, nor for newspapers. They are maps of fear. Maps made in secrecy, guarded by locked doors and watchful eyes. You walk along the wall. Another map is pinned there. A satellite photograph, black and white, grainy. At first it looks like nothing more than shapes and shadows. Fields, rivers, rooftops. But an analyst points with his pencil. Here is a launch site. Here is a runway. Here are tracks too wide for trucks, built for rockets. You lean closer, and slowly the image takes meaning. What once was land is now evidence. What once was shadow is now proof. The map is no longer just a guide. It is a warning. You sit at the edge of the table. The light humming above, the air cold. And you feel the tension in every mark. For these maps decide not trade, not travel, not harvest, but survival. One wrong reading, one mistaken line, one misunderstood circle could mean cities lost. You close your eyes, and you hear the echo of the age. Sirens tested in distant towns. Families shown maps of fallout zones. Schools hanging posters of shelters. The maps reach even into ordinary homes. Not precise, not secret, but simplified. Shading regions that might be targets. You imagine a child tracing a circle around their city. Their finger stopping at the edge of danger. The child does not know the science, but they feel the fear. You open your eyes again. Back in the underground room. The analysts continue. Their pencils scratching quietly. Their maps filling with red zones, blue zones, shaded margins. And you realize that these maps are as much weapons as the missiles themselves. Not because they destroy, but because they decide. The missile does not know where to go. The map tells it. The plane does not know what to strike. The map selects it. The leaders do not see the world itself. They see only the paper before them. And decisions are made in silence. You walk slowly to another corner of the room. There, a globe rests beneath a lamp. But it is not painted in bright colors like a classroom globe. It is marked with pins, with notes, with lines stretching across oceans. The whole planet becomes a battlefield of possibility. And yet, in the quiet of the room, it is still. Only paper, only ink, only lines. You breathe deeply, letting the weight of that paradox settle. That the world can be both peaceful and threatened at once. That maps can both hide the silence of ordinary life and shout the possibilities of sudden destruction. The Cold War maps whisper softly to you. That power can lie not in armies moving, but in armies imagined. That maps can make threats visible, even before they exist. That fear itself can be charted. You close your eyes once more. The humming of the lights fades. The smell of ink and dust softens. And you drift outward. Beyond locked rooms, beyond circles of red, beyond shadows on photographs. Toward a new kind of mapping. Not hidden, not secret, but glowing upon every screen, in every hand. The digital grids of the modern age. The underground room fades. The circles of red and blue dissolve. The hum of fluorescent light falls silent. And when your eyes open again, you are no longer beneath concrete. You are in the glow of screens. The air hums with electricity. A faint buzz, like breath through wires. Before you, the world is alive with pixels. It is not parchment, not vellum, not paper pinned to a wall. It is a screen in your hand, glowing against the dark. You see a grid unfold. Streets traced with thin white lines. Rivers painted blue, parks in green, buildings in pale grey. You pinch the map with your fingers. It shrinks, expands, tilts. With every gesture, the world rearranges itself. This is not a map that fades or smudges. It redraws instantly. You are standing in the age of digital grids. Satellites circle high above. Cameras point downward, capturing every street, every house, every path. Invisible signals pulse from towers, from orbit, from tiny chips within your hand. And the map responds. It shows not only where things are, but where you are. A small blue dot glows, moving as you move, turning as you turn. You pause, and you realize the map is no longer separate from you. It follows you. It knows you. You walk slowly through a city street. The screen glows in your hand. Every corner is there. Every alley, every shop, every shadow. The map whispers directions in a calm voice. Turn left. Turn right. Arrive. Oi. You do not need to know the stars above, nor the compass in your pocket. The map knows for you. And yet, you sense the shift. In older times, maps were fragile, incomplete, partial. They left blanks, spaces for imagination. Here, there are no blanks. Every street drawn, every building labeled, every movement tracked. The world feels complete, and yet less mysterious. You breathe slowly, letting the glow soften your eyes. You scroll outward. The city shrinks. The region appears. The continent. The globe. All in your hand. It is astonishing. You carry the world as sailors once carried charts. As emperors once unrolled scrolls upon tables. As monks once painted circles of faith. But now, the world is folded into a device no larger than your palm. You close your eyes, and you imagine the satellites above. Orbiting silently, their lenses capturing coasts, forests, mountains. Signals bouncing invisibly. Every movement mapped. Every journey traced. The digital map whispers softly to you that the world is no longer outside alone. It is also within the grid. You reflect. That once, to be lost was ordinary. Sailors drifting in fog, travelers wandering forests, villagers unsure of the next town. Now, to be lost is rare. The map always shows you where you are. Always corrects, always guides. And yet, with this certainty comes another weight. You are never unseen. Every step traced. Every turn recorded. The map knows your journey even if you forget it. You open your eyes again. The glow still steady. People around you walk with screens glowing in their hands. Each one following the blue dot. Each one guided by voices only they hear. The world outside is busy, but their eyes are fixed upon the map. They see not the sky, not the trees, not the stones beneath their feet. They see the grid. You pause, and you reflect. That power now lies not only in the land, nor in the lines drawn upon it, but in the data beneath it. The digital grids whisper this truth: that to draw the world today is to record every movement within it. That the map has shifted from paper to code, from guide to companion, from tool to overseer. You breathe slowly. The glow soft against your face. And you drift onward. From glowing screens, from satellites circling high, from the endless grids of digital maps. Toward another vision. Not maps in your hand alone, but maps of the entire Earth. Maps drawn from the vantage of space itself. Eyes above the planet, watching all at once. The glow of the screen fades. The blue dot vanishes. The hum of satellites turns to silence. And when your eyes open again, you are no longer holding a map in your hand. You are floating far above the Earth itself. The air is gone. There is no wind, no sound, only the quiet vastness of space. Beneath you the planet turns slowly. Oceans vast and deep, continents spread wide. Clouds drift like veils of white across the blue. You breathe softly, though here the breath is imagined, and you gaze upon the whole Earth at once. It is a map without parchment, a map without lines. It is the world itself. And yet, even here, men and women have found a way to draw. You turn your head, and you see satellites circling silently. Their panels gleaming in sunlight, their eyes fixed upon the Earth below. They move endlessly, tracing invisible paths, recording every surface, every shadow, every glimmer of light. From these eyes above, the Earth becomes image, and from image, it becomes map. You drift closer, and you see how the satellites send their pictures downward. Swathes of land captured in detail, rivers like threads, mountains like folds in cloth. Each image stitched to another, forming a whole. The planet drawn, not by hand, but by machine. You realize this is a new kind of map. Not one seen from the ground, not one imagined from tales, not one measured by chain and compass, but one captured from above. The eye of the sky looking down. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you feel the vastness of it. Every forest, every desert, every city glowing at night. All visible, all recorded. The wonder is immense. Never before has humanity seen itself so completely. And yet, you sense another truth. To see everything is also to hold everything. These maps are not only for wonder, they are for power. You open your eyes again, and you are in a control room. Screens cover the walls, glowing with images of coasts, of rivers, of roads winding through mountains. Technicians sit at consoles, their fingers on keyboards, their eyes flicking from screen to screen. They do not look at the earth itself. They look at its image. And from those images, decisions are made. Where to build, where to watch, where to move, where to strike. You breathe slowly, and the hum of machines fills your ears. You walk to one screen, and you see a city. Every street visible, every rooftop, every shadow between buildings. The map is no longer distant. It is intimate. You walk to another, and you see the ocean. Ships leave white trails upon the blue. Tracked, recorded, mapped in silence. You realize the eyes above see all, and yet the earth itself remains unaware. The river still flows. The forest still grows. The mountain still rises. Only the maps change. You pause, and you reflect. That to see from above is both to marvel and to command. To feel wonder at the beauty of the earth, and to feel power at its vulnerability. The satellites whisper this lesson to you. That knowledge can be both gift and burden. That to know everything is not the same as to understand it. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you are not in the control room. You are back in silence, floating once more above the earth itself. The continents glow softly in moonlight. The oceans ripple in silver. The clouds drift endlessly. And you breathe. Slowly. Gently. The earth turns beneath you. Vast, whole, serene. And you understand that maps have reached their farthest point. From clay tablets scratched by reed stylus, to satellites gazing silently from space. From fragments of rivers, to the whole planet in one view. The journey of maps is the journey of human sight itself. To see further, to see clearer, to hold the world not only in body, but in mind. You drift softly, the earth beneath you turning, the stars beyond you steady. And as the vision fades, You are carried onward from the vastness of space into hidden cartographies yet more intimate. Maps not of land alone, but of wealth, of networks, of data. Maps unseen, but shaping the world quietly. The silence of space fades. The blue globe of the Earth softens. The stars dissolve into mist. And when your eyes open again, you are not in the open air, not in the sweep of oceans or forests. You are in a quieter room. No parchment lies here, no compasses, no astrolabes. Only glowing screens, wires humming softly, lights blinking in patient rhythm. These are maps too. But they are not drawn with rivers and mountains. Not shaded with coasts or colored with borders. They are maps of what cannot be seen. You walk closer, and upon the screen, lines appear. Not of roads, not of fields, but of networks. Threads of light stretch across continents. Glowing arcs linking one city to another. This is a map of wealth. Money flowing invisibly. Across banks, across markets, across digital pathways. The screen shows not land, but numbers moving. Values shifting. Invisible tides rising and falling. You lean closer, and you see how these flows shape nations as surely as rivers. A flood of wealth here builds towers, fills ports, lights cities. A drought of wealth there leaves silence, hunger, stillness. The map whispers softly. That power is not only armies or borders, but invisible streams of value flowing beneath them. You walk to another screen. Here, dots glow brightly. Each one a server, a machine, a device. Lines of code connecting them in webs. This is a map of networks. The internet itself traced like a constellation. Every point alive, every thread binding people together. You realize that the world is no longer held only by rivers or roads, but by cables beneath oceans, signals above skies, pathways made not of stone, but of code. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you hear it. The hum of data moving unseen. Messages flying through fiber. Images and voices carried silently through air. An invisible map unfolding every second. You open your eyes again, and you see another hidden cartography. This one shows people. Not by their names, not by their faces, but by movements. Dots drift across the screen. Each one a person carrying a device. Each one leaving a trace. Together they form patterns. Streets glowing brighter where many walk, shops marked by footsteps, neighborhoods mapped by habits unseen. You pause, and you feel the weight of this map. For it does not only describe where people are. It describes who they are, how they live, what they choose. It is a map of behavior. And it whispers softly. That to be mapped is to be known. You walk deeper into the room. More screens glow. One shows trade routes of oil and gas. Pipelines crossing deserts, tankers moving silently across seas. Another shows digital currents, where information flows, where stories spread, where rumors ignite. Another shows even subtler maps. Maps of influence, of alliances, of power drawn not upon land but upon people. And you realize that the greatest maps of today are often unseen. They do not hang upon walls. They are not folded into atlases. They exist in codes, in servers, in data held quietly beyond sight. You close your eyes once more, and you reflect that from the first clay tablets of Mesopotamia to these invisible networks, maps have always been about power. Sometimes the power to harvest. Sometimes the power to conquer. Sometimes the power to persuade. And now, the power to know. To know without being seen. To see without being touched. The hidden cartographies whisper this to you: that the lines which shape our lives today are often the ones we cannot see. Invisible rivers of wealth. Invisible roads of data. Invisible maps of our own behavior. You breathe slowly, letting the truth settle gently within. The screens hum. The lines glow. And as the light softens, you drift onward. From hidden maps unseen, to maps that no longer only observe, but follow. Maps of surveillance, where the line between guide and watcher grows thin. The hidden cartographies dim around you. The glowing threads of wealth and data soften to a hush. The screens that traced invisible tides blink once, then settle into quiet sleep. When your eyes open again, the room is not quite dark. Small lights hover in corners, tiny LEDs like watchful stars. A camera dome rests in the ceiling, a glassy half-moon. Somewhere a server hums, low and steady, like a distant tide against stone. These too are maps. Not rivers, not roads, not coastlines, but watchfulness turned into lines. Attention drawn as geometry. Footsteps folded into patterns. You step into a corridor washed in pale light. A soft chime opens the door. The air smells faintly of metal and warm plastic. And beyond the glass, a city glows. You walk into the night. Rain has left the streets shining. Neon pools in the puddles, red, blue, white. The crosswalk clicks through its rhythm, the signal blinks, the traffic breathes. And above you, lenses blink with it. Each lens sees. Each lens sends. A stream of images, a ribbon of moments, a parade of faces and plates and passing shadows. Somewhere far from this corner, those streams become shapes on a screen. Boxes around faces. Numbers beside plates. Arrows that follow a figure turning left, turning right, pausing, starting again. Maps of movement. drawn in silence. You breathe slowly, letting the city's wet air settle against your skin. And you feel it. How the map is not on paper anymore, not even on a screen you hold. It is in the place itself. Woven into the lamps that glow, the lights that change, the doors that sense your approach. Your pocket tugs gently against you. You know it without looking. The small companion that listens to towers and satellites and tiny beacons, that counts your steps, that marks your turn, that hums your history even as you sleep. A blue dot once guided you. Now the dot is a breadcrumb trail behind you. Street to street. Shop to shop. Hour to hour. No one voice announces this. There is no chorus of trumpets. Only agreements written in long quiet sentences, accepted with a tap. And a map begins to grow. Not of where mountains rise, but of where you linger. Not of where rivers flow, but of where your gaze rests, where your finger pauses, where your evening takes you after dusk. You cross beneath an archway and the camera in its stone belly barely hums. It does not need to shout. It only needs to see. Beyond the arch a plaza opens. Warm light spills from cafes. Steam climbs from cups into the chill. Conversations rise and fall like tide. On a balcony above, another lens turns, very slightly. In a room 2 streets away, a grid of tiny windows flowers on a wall of screens. Each window a square of life. A corner, a doorway, a curb. A patient eye watching a patient street. You stand quietly and let the realization settle. This, too, is a cartography. A map made from looking. A map made from noticing. A map etched from the soft pencil of routine. You take a seat beneath the awning and listen. Drip. Drip. Rain loosening its grip. A silver trail left by the day. Inside the cafe, a card machine chirps, a tablet lights, a receipt curls. Lines of numbers travel outward, where they fold into another map. Not the map of where you walked, but the map of where you bought, when you bought, what you chose. A constellation of cups and books and buses, stitched together by time. Somewhere a server writes it down. Quietly, faithfully. And another server compares it to 1,000 other nights. And together they make a portrait without a face. A shadow without a name. A shape of a life drawn in pixels and pace. You breathe, slow and even, and the night breathes with you. Across the plaza, a patrol car idles. Inside it, a small screen glows. A plate flashes across it as a sedan drifts past. The numbers match or they do not. The system nods or it hesitates. Along the next boulevard, a row of poles watches in sequence. Reading plates, stitching speed, estimating direction. A moving net that you only notice when you begin to wonder how often your own passing has been counted. You rise and walk. The pavement dark, the reflections bright. The city's map unfurling beneath your feet like a silk unfurling from a careful hand. A drone passes somewhere above, not loud, not close. Only a shift of air. And you think of eyes that fly and eyes that float and eyes that wait in quiet housings too small to notice. Maps of rooftops and alleys, maps of crowds and gaps, maps of where a door opens too often after midnight, where a lane fills at once and empties at once, where the flow of a festival bends like a river around a stone. You turn down a street where storefronts sleep behind metal ribs. Here the map takes on heat. Not color on paper, but color in code. A warmth where bodies rest behind walls, a cool corridor of night air threading between them. Somewhere a system counts patterns. A block with more footsteps after midnight than before. A corner where small dots gather at certain hours. Not names. Only shapes. Not stories. Only trends. This is the cartography of prediction. A grid that guesses. A net that suggests. A future drawn faintly ahead of the present. Perhaps there, the model whispers. Perhaps here. Not certainty. Only tilt. Only nudge. Only weight upon a scale. You pause and let that word dissolve softly. Weight. For what is a map but a way to put weight on a certain where? A certain who. A certain when. You walk again. A bicycle passes with a hush, a delivery van slows, a window lifts and lowers like a calm breath. Inside an office you cannot see, a dashboard blooms with circles and bars. This district brighter than yesterday. That corner calmer than last week. The map does not know the story. Only the shape. It does not hear the song. Only the rhythm. A group of friends laughing after a concert can look like a problem. A lone figure standing in the rain can look like a pattern. The lines are gentle, but the meanings gather quietly around them, like mist deciding where to linger. You turn toward the river and the air freshens. Water speaks in its old language. Soft and certain. Across the water, offices rise with glass faces. At this hour, most floors are dark. A few still glow. And in one small room a row of monitors flickers with maps of networks threading through cables and towers. Green lines for traffic healthy and smooth. Amber lines for strain. Red for places where the net frays. Even silence is mapped. When a neighborhood goes suddenly dark on every channel, someone far away notices the absence, the hole where conversation should be. The map marks not what is heard, but what is not. You rest your hands upon the cool rail and look across the current. The river knows it has been mapped for thousands of years. By reeds and clay. By compass and chain. By camera and code. And you feel how each kind of map laid itself upon the last. Not replacing, but layering. A palimpsest of attention. A stack of ways of seeing. In your pocket, The small device stirs. A gentle buzz. An app asks politely if it may know your location while you sleep. Only to improve your experience. Only to serve you better. Only to be useful to you, just you. You smile, soft and tired, and the night smiles back. For the night has seen these lines before. On a nearby path a jogger passes, headphones pulsing a quiet beat. The route she runs draws a ribbon on a private map. Loops and out and backs folded into days, into weeks. Eventually a portrait of habit, drawn by pulse and pace. She is not watched by a face she can name. She is watched by a line that repeats and becomes a meaning. She is watched by her own shape on a page no one holds, in a room no one visits. You leave the river and return to the streets. A mural watches from brick. Painted eyes larger than life. And under those painted eyes a real lens glints. Reflections inside reflections. Sight nested in sight. You remember the warmth of paper maps, edges frayed. You remember the smell of vellum and ink, the rustle of parchment in candlelight. You remember the hush of stars used as a compass, the steady north that needed no battery. Now the north is an equation, and the page is a network, and the candle is a diode. And still you walk, and still you breathe, and still the city carries you like a river carries a leaf. You wonder, quietly, what a map should do. Should it guide? Should it reveal? Should it protect? Should it listen? Surveillance maps answer with another question. How much knowing is care? How much knowing is control? There is no alarm in the asking. Only the soft weight of thought. Like a blanket that remembers your shape as you turn towards sleep. You pass a school where daydream drawings still hang in a corridor. Crayon worlds with dragons and suns and houses square as stories. Their borders run right off the page, unconcerned with corners. They are maps too, the first kind. The kind that simply say, I was here, and here was mine. You feel the two forms of map tug at each other inside you. The child's map that declares, and the watcher's map that records. Between them, a quiet third takes shape. The keeper's map. The one that holds without harm. You pause beneath a tree, its leaves still shaking small droplets free. Above you a camera lens rests like a black fruit, round and glossy. But for a moment your eyes close and you hear only wind touching leaves, the old map of sound that needs no legend. Breath in. Breath out. Shoulders loosen, jaw softens, hands unmake their fists. When you open your eyes, the street seems slower. The machine's no less present, but quieter in your mind. You notice the ways the city maps you that are kinder. A street lamp brightens as you approach, not to mark you, but to welcome you. An elevator's button glows and remembers your floor, not to follow you, but to spare you a small step. A crosswalk's chirp helps a neighbor cross, a ramp's slope makes a door less heavy. Design is a map too. A gentle tracing of how bodies move, where hands reach, what feet can climb. Not all surveillance is a glare. Some of it is simply a hand waiting under your elbow as you descend a stair in the rain. You turn a final corner and find a library open late. Its windows warm. Its quiet, a kind of tide pooling around your ankles. Inside, the old atlases are still kept. Grand, heavy, patient. Their pages sigh when lifted. Their blues and greens still gentle, still certain. You sit and open one. The room seems glad of it. The overhead lens does not blink, the router's lights do not dim. But your breath does something older. It slows. It lengthens. It remembers the pace of rivers and the hush of stars. On these paper shores the cameras cannot follow you. Not because they are locked out, but because memory turns its face toward you instead of away. You think of the path you took, and you choose which stones to keep. You choose which seas to cross again in your mind. You choose what to leave bare and what to shade. This, too, is a surveillance. But it is yours. A soft watching of your own life, kind and private, without database or alarm. You close the atlas and the page lies flat, calm as a lake at night. You stand, and the librarian nods with the slow grace of someone who has watched many maps open and close, many evenings begin and end. Back on the street, the rain has become mist. The city's watchfulness continues, but you have shifted your weight inside it. You walk not as a dot moving through a grid, but as a person moving through air. The lenses still see. The servers still hum. The dashboards still bloom with circles and bars. But you do not need to carry them all with you. You let them stay where they are. On walls, in rooms, inside housings that blink like small constellations no one names. You hold instead a different constellation. Footfalls you remember. Faces you love. Places that made room for you when you needed them to. A softer cartography unfurls. A map that refuses to harden into judgment. A map that notices without possessing. A map that draws a boundary only to hold your rest, not to seal you in. You breathe. The long breath that belongs to night when it is nearly finished and not yet ready to say so. Surveillance maps whisper their final lesson as you turn toward the slow homeward street. That seeing is power, and power asks to be carried carefully. That a world can be safer for being known, and smaller for being watched. That the gentlest map is the one that knows when to close its eyes. The cameras continue their blinking stare. The devices continue their counting. But the sky above them does what skies have always done. It softens at its edges. It makes room for stars. You step into that room. A few of those stars slip between the buildings and find the river and rest there. And the river is glad to carry their light a little while. You are nearly at the end of this walk. Your shoulders are a little lower now. Your jaw is quiet. Your hands have forgotten the quickness of the day. The city keeps its maps. The rooms keep their screens. The servers keep their numbers. But you keep something else. The right to drift, to set the bundle down, to be uncharted for a while inside the softest darkness. And as you turn the last corner, the door you know is there finds you. And the light that knows your shape opens without asking for a name. And the old map, breath in, breath out, unrolls again across the inside of your chest. You step through, and the watchful world remains outside like rain on a coat. It will be there in the morning. It can wait. Tonight you are the cartographer and the map and the quiet reader too. Drawing a boundary of rest. Filling it with stillness. Letting the lines of the day fade into the softest possible night. And as your eyes grow heavy, and your breath settles into its patient rhythm, you drift from the bright, unblinking grids toward a darker room where nothing needs to know your steps. A room with a window cracked open to the whisper of air. A room with a blanket that remembers your shape. A room where even memory agrees to turn its lamp low. You lie down within that room. And the world goes on mapping itself. And you do not have to. Not now. Not here. Rest. The watchful city fades. The blinking lenses dim. The quiet hum of servers grows still. And when your eyes open again, you are not beneath the sky, not upon a street, not even in a room of stone or glass. You are within yourself. The space is softer here. Wide, yet close. Quiet, yet full. No paper rustles. No screen glows. No compass ticks. And yet, maps still unfold. For within you lives another cartography. The map of memory. The map of dream. The map of the mind itself. You breathe slowly. And you feel it begin to draw itself. A path rises before you. Not of stone, not of earth, but of remembrance. Each step a place you have been. Each turn a moment you have carried. The smell of rain from a childhood street. The sound of a loved voice in another room. The warmth of a hand once held, long ago. They are landmarks, as real as mountains. As steady as rivers. You realize that your mind has been mapping all along. Not with ink, but with feeling. Not with rulers, but with time. Not with borders, but with memory. You close your eyes within this space, and a memory rises like a hill. A kitchen table, perhaps. Light falling across it. The sound of a clock in the next room. You step into it. And it is there, alive again. The map whispers softly that nothing is truly gone if it is remembered. You walk further. Another path opens. This one softer. less certain. It is dream. Here, the lines are not steady. They shift like mist. One turn leads to a door you have never seen. Another opens into a place both familiar and strange. You drift along. And though it does not follow rules, it still maps you. Dreams make their own cartographies. A room larger inside than out. A road that leads in circles yet feels like progress. A face you know appearing in a land you do not. You breathe. Slowly. Letting the dream map guide you without question. And you realize that within you lies an entire world that redraws itself each night. It may be fragile. It may be fleeting. But it is real while it lasts. You pause. And you reflect. That every map outside, clay, parchment, compass, grid, satellite, was first imagined within. The surveyor measured because he could imagine lines in his head. The sailor steered because he could picture coasts never seen. The general moved pins because he could imagine paths across the earth. Every map outside begins with the map within. You stand quietly, listening. And you hear it. The soft pulse of your own heart. The rhythm steady, like a drum beneath silence. This, too, is a map. A map of the body. Vessels flowing like rivers, lungs expanding like valleys, neurons firing like stars. Invisible, yet guiding every step you take. The map within you whispers its own truth. That life itself is a journey traced without paper. That every breath is a coordinate, every heartbeat a marker, every memory a path. You open your eyes. And you see not just one path, but many. Some are bright with joy. Some shadowed with sorrow. Some winding with wonder. Some straight with certainty. Together they form the cartography of your life. No one else can draw it. No one else can read it. It belongs only to you. And as you stand within it, you feel a softness, a safety. For the outer maps may watch, may divide, may command. But the inner map, it comforts. It remembers. It guides you home. You breathe deeply. Shoulders softening, hands loosening. The lines of your inner map begin to blur gently. No longer sharp, no longer demanding. They soften into quiet light. Pathways that do not need to be followed, only felt. The kitchen table fades. The childhood street dissolves. The dream corridors close their doors. All that remains is the gentle glow of your own presence. The map within you folds itself tenderly. Not erased, only resting. It whispers its final truth to you. That you are here. That you are whole. That you are safe. And as your breath steadies, as your eyes grow heavier, you drift not through clay, or parchment, or satellite images. but through your own gentle world. The softest cartography. The one that asks nothing of you but rest. The map within softens, its lines fading, its light folding gently into quiet. And when your eyes open again, the world is darker, softer, slower. There is no parchment before you, no glowing screen, no circles of satellites high above. Only night. The kind of night that does not need to be measured. The kind of night that does not ask to be drawn. You sit at its edge, and it surrounds you like a blanket pulled close. The maps of history drift through your thoughts like leaves upon a slow river. Clay tablets pressed with reeds. Scrolls painted with seas. Roads stretching across empires. Circles of faith lit by candles. Silver discs of stars and science. Bright charts of explorers. Projections stretched wide. Borders drawn with rulers. Colored nations, printed pamphlets, surveyors' chains, silent satellites, digital grids. They have all passed before you, each one a way of holding the world, each one a way of shaping it. And now, one by one, they rest. The clay tablets crumble back to earth. The scrolls roll closed. The candles burn down to ash. The compasses and chains are set aside. The satellites drift far into the dark. The screens dim. All that remains is night. You breathe slowly. Your shoulders loosen. Your jaw softens. The burdens of the day slip from you like sand falling quietly back to the shore. There is nothing more to follow now. No path to trace. No border to guard. No coastline to measure. The world does not need you to hold it tonight. It holds itself. The rivers flow without lines. The mountains rise without shading. The forests breathe without colors. The oceans stretch without compass. And you may simply rest. You close your eyes. And in the darkness, you drift. Not across maps. Not across borders, but across stillness itself. The night is vast, yet it asks nothing of you. It does not need to know where you are. It does not need to record your steps. It does not need to divide you into lines or colors. It only needs to hold you. You breathe again, and the breath feels deeper now, as though the air itself were a tide, carrying you out gently, carrying you back gently. Your body grows heavier, like a stone placed upon soft sand. Steady, secure, unmoving. The maps of memory and dream begin to blur. Not gone, only softened. Like chalk brushed away by the palm of a hand. Your thoughts grow slower. Like a pen lifting from the page, pausing, never returning. and the night grows wider. You are safe within it. You are steady within it. You are home within it. The maps whisper their final lesson as they fade. That power does not vanish. It only changes form. That the world will always be drawn and redrawn and remembered. But tonight, it does not need to be. Tonight, there is only rest. You feel the last echoes slip away. Clay, parchment, ink, paper, grid, screen. They drift like stars falling beyond the horizon. And you are left with nothing but quiet. The deepest, softest quiet. Your breath rises, falls, rises again. Your body grows still. Your eyes close fully. And you drift. Deeper and deeper into sleep. The night holds you now, and it will not let you go. The night holds you. The long drift has carried you. The maps have folded one by one. Clay tablets have softened back into earth. Scrolls have curled and closed. Candles have burned down to silence. Compasses and chains have been laid to rest. Globes have dimmed in their corners. Screens have gone dark. All the world's cartographies, one by one, have passed before you. And now, there is nothing more to follow. No roads left to measure. No coasts left to trace. No borders left to argue. Only the quiet truth that remains. That maps do not only show the world. They shape it. That every line drawn was also a choice. That every center chosen was also a belief. That every blank filled was also a dream. And that power does not vanish. It only changes form. You breathe slowly. And with each breath you feel that truth soften within you. You are not only the reader of maps. You are also their maker. For within you lies the map of memory. The map of dream. The map of self. And tonight, those maps draw only rest. The burdens of the day have slipped from you. The noise of the world has dimmed. You are safe now. Steady now. Whole now. The night surrounds you like a sea, holding you gently upon its surface. The stars above are not coordinates tonight. They are simply lights, steady and soft. The earth below is not a chart tonight. It is simply ground, quiet and patient. The breath within you is not a measure tonight. It is simply life, simple and enough. You close your eyes. The weight of the blanket settles like warm sand upon your body. The surface beneath you holds you like stone beneath river water. The rhythm of your breath carries you like a slow current into deeper dark. There is no need to trace paths now. There is no need to imagine distances now. There is no need to hold the world tonight. It holds itself. You are free to let go. Your jaw softens. Your shoulders ease. Your hands unclench. Your mind loosens its grip. The maps blur into memory. The memory blurs into dream. The dream blurs into sleep. And the sleep blurs into silence. The silence that has always been there. Waiting beneath every line, beneath every name, beneath every border. The silence that does not need to be drawn. You drift into it gently, like a river widening into sea, like ink fading from the page, like stars dissolving into dawn. And as you drift, the last whisper of the maps follows you. That you have walked through the world tonight, and the world has walked through you. That you have traced its lines, and it has traced yours. That you are part of its story, as it is part of yours. And that now it is time to rest. Your breath steadies. Your body grows still. Your thoughts quiet completely. The night is yours. And so is the sleep waiting just ahead. You may let yourself go. Nothing more is needed. You are here. You are whole. You are safe. Rest now. Drift now. Sleep now. The maps will wait. The world will wait. Tonight belongs only to you.